Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fishfindings. This is episode 4 of the series where I'm going to go through one or two tiny little Fishmans things that I thought were interesting. Today I want to discuss my several unsuccessful attempts to locate the location of this image in the very background of Kuchu Camp. This is a very arid image, and it's very blurry. And there's not a lot about it that we can make out. And this has always been a struggle for me because I know where the long season cover photo is. I know where a lot of other things are, but I don't know where this is. So I've always been really curious to figure out sort of where in the world this exactly is. So you have to do a tiny bit of image confirmation here and there to figure out what exactly things are. Something I fixated early on when analyzing something I fixated on really quickly when I was analyzing this image was the presence of 4 vertical black lines across in this landscape here. I thought this was important at first, but I don't really think it is anymore. It was probably just spokes from a fence. This seems to be a speed sign, and I thought that this was a rather distinctive speed sign at first, but the more that I researched it, it seemed like half of the world has speed signs like this, so that doesn't narrow it down at all. These buildings look very rusty, very old, very, weathered. They might not be there anymore after 30 so odd years. And these people are unfamiliar. I don't know who they are. They don't seem like Fishmans members. They don't dress like Fishmans members, or maybe they do a little bit, but they don't seem like people recognizable to us. The one on the left somewhat looks like a woman. It almost looks like they're carrying a child or something around with them or whatever. So I think it's safe to assume that these people on the front aren't Fishmans. But there also seems to be sort of a reflective white surface over here. Maybe that's a lake or a body of water or something. So I wasn't really able to nail down exactly where this was at all based on actual analyzation of the picture analysis. You can probably tell that. You can probably guess that actually looking at the picture isn't going to give you anything at all. This is basically a nothing area. The only thing we really have to go off of is that it's an arid thing. And that has a lot of, that could be anywhere. But the more that I thought about it, the more that I realized that this was something that Japan doesn't really have, right? You look around, there's lots of beaches for sure, and we can probably check those, but a lot of Japan is made up of mountains and forests, so that does slightly narrow it down if we can confirm that this was in Japan. And there's really only 2 possibilities with this image, and the first is that it was taken by Fishmans, the second is that it's not. And I would argue, based on the presence of these 2 people, that it wasn't. But there still remains that possibility. We don't know whether or not this actually was taken by Fishmans or not. So I wanted to go around through some locations that Fishmans has taken photos at and see if I can find any proof of, or any idea of, similar structures to these little huts. Trying to find a road through here, or a road sign, anything that leads me in the direction of this photo. And again, I think it's about 80% likely that Fishmans just didn't take that picture, but working off of the assumption that it does, I actually found something pretty fascinating on this coast of the Pacific Ocean. So a lot of Fishmans takes place in this sort of Shinjuku Shibuya area, Setagaya. A lot of Fishmans history takes place in this area of the city, unless it's for 2 reasons. Either it's a special event or a performance, like a concert someplace. Sometimes they go over here for performances, regardless. So a lot of the time you can pretty easily nail down that Fishmans is in Western Tokyo. Where exactly, we don't know, but they've also been over in places like Ome for the long season photo, right? They've been elsewhere. So I started to look around at different beaches, and this is a lot of effort, right? So I really wanted to nail it down and figure out if there's any locations that Fishmans has gone where they were, or where they have spent an extended amount of time taking a lot of photos at a beach, right? So I thought about it a lot, and I remembered pretty quickly that the Fishmans movie has about a 6-minute scroll of photos at a beach, right? And that's this this video here. So you can see a lot of these photos. They stayed here for a set amount of time, and this looks similar. Am I right? It's sort of right, or like it's flat, it's arid, right? You can kind of, there might be a water source back here, so it sort of looks like it, right? So I started to look around, and I had to ask myself, where is this location, right? Because if we can't find this, then surely we can find this, right? There's a lot of stuff to pull from this whole scroll, right? For example, the film has a lot more explicit photos of these buildings, but there's quite a lot of buildings over here, right? In the film, that you can actually get pictures, the Fishmans documentary, you can actually get pictures of these buildings straight on, and they have text on the side. So I started Googling, started getting that text, and sending it around Google, and I could not find a single resource on any of the buildings that are in this complex, and that was baffling to me, right? It seems like an entire, mall area. There's a car parked, they seem to have parked here, and it's a pretty cool, interlude to this film. And I picked out 3 pictures that I thought would help me identify this area. The first one doesn't seem that helpful, but I'll explain. This is a tiny little boat that's probably not there anymore, right? And this is, they squat down right next to it for a minute to cook a fire. But if this was still in the area, then you would have some proof, once you found it, that temporary structures remain in this area, right? So for example, these huts on the front, if that boat's still there, then maybe the huts are still there, am I right? So, who knows? It was just a hunch. I didn't really have a lot to go off of this one, but I'll tie this in later, and I'll show you how this sort of became a really important part of this. The second photo that I picked was this one, which is a lot more indicative of the sort of area that they're in here. So obviously you have this sort of parking lot, this very barren parking lot, this sort of basic flat area. It's right next to a highway, which is right here. Assumedly, we're looking away from the water, so the water is, the opposite side of the car. And we're getting this shrine here with a very distinctive bump on the top that kind of slopes further off to the left than it does to the right. And then you have all of these houses in the back with their roofs just pointing up. So that's sort of the general consensus you can get from this image, and that's a really useful bit of detail. We can learn a lot from this image. And the third one that I picked out was this one. So this gives us some, skyline. There's more of this parking lot. This almost looks like a car dealership, right? So it could be any number of things. You get more of the street that's going by, more of the water off camera, and you have this big ass hotel off to the side, right? And with these hanging hotel rooms that you're seeing here, very distinctive building, and it seems to curve in and possibly around, right? So that's really most or all of what I have to go off of on this. And so I knew this was at a beach, and I knew that there was towns on the other side of the beach, and that there was a shrine. So I was very frustrated. I looked around this beach. I didn't find anything. I looked around. Eventually I came to this one because I was frustrated, and I was just looking around. I was going down every inch of the road, trying to find, oh, maybe it's here, maybe it's there, whatever. So I got really upset, and I said, whatever, I'm just going to plop myself down someplace random, and I don't know, maybe something will come of it, right? So I look around, there's some houses over here, but it's not really anything distinctive. We have more of this road, right? And more of this beach, but it's kind of flat, right? You can kind of see where this is sort of feeling like it. So I was considering this beach sort of a candidate explanation for where this photo shoot was, right? So I was looking around, and eventually I zoomed in on this building, and I said, holy shit, that's it. It was chance. It was chance. I looked at this building, and my jaw dropped, because that is our building, right? That's the building. So I came out of it freaking out, and I went over to this building, and that is it. That's the one. It's Sunrise Kujikuri, and it actually looks like a really nice hotel. But I said, wow, okay, I know where I am, right? So it's somewhere over here. And sure enough, there's a big parking lot. And I said, wow, this is like Christmas morning, right? So I said, okay, but I was missing a really key detail, and that is the idea that there was this big collection of buildings over here. Where is that, right? What happened to these buildings? And there was this big blank spot where the buildings used to be, right? Temporarily closed. Okay, I guess. Temporary, I guess. So I was really confused as to what happened to these buildings. And so I checked through this area a little further, and sure enough, I found out that this area was actually bulldozed at some point. You can actually see this on Google Earth, and this is in 2003. So sometimes between 2003 and 2010, which is a pretty big window, all these buildings were bulldozed, not there anymore. What remains is the parking lot that was there this whole time. So if you look around this area, and eventually you find out that there's this edging area over here. That's the worst word to use here, but you can discover that this monument is right here. This little shrine is right here, and that's the same one that's in this photo. And if you look at it, right, you have that road behind you, and if you get on Street View, you see more of those same buildings, and this is probably the exact same building that's in this photo. I was freaking out about this specific building and this specific shrine that has a sort of weird dent in the left. So I was freaking out over this, and then I turned around and I lost my mind, because that is the boat and the fire. Am I right? That's the boat. That's the boat. That's the same name. That's the same boat. That's the same exact boat, right? So I was losing my mind about it. I took another photo just because I was excited about having finally found this building. I took a photo of the boat, was sharing it with people like nobody's business. I took this photo of the area, and so I was just freaking out over the fact that I found this photo location. You could go to this area. It's I actually don't know the town. Minami and Maizumi, in Chiba. This area is where they took this photo shoot, and I refer to it internally as the Nightcruising photo shoot because Nightcruising plays during it. But that's exactly where it is. And now I'm gonna spoil something for you, and this is bad news. I did look all over this parking lot. I don't think this photo was taken in this parking lot. I don't think that the Kuchu Camp cover was taken in this parking lot, unfortunately. It's not here. I saw that boat, I said, wow, I think it's here, and then I saw this, and I said, okay, it's not that. I can't find a single building that looks like this, or a road that looks like that goes through here. No idea. But I found this, and I called that a victory. And so now it's marked down here, with all of the proof images attached. And you'll notice there's a lot more photos attached to this one than basically any other photo location on the map, right? So I was very excited about this one. This was completely on accident. But so that's essentially what I learned from that, is that sometimes when you're chasing impossible ghosts in the wild, you'll find something else that's at least noteworthy. And that's about all I wanted to communicate. I thought that was cool. This map will be in the description. Go ahead and check that out if you're curious. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. And subscribe for more.